I'm Diane Nealey, your worship associate this morning. When I was a freshman in high school, our English teacher, who was also the drama coach, gave us an assignment to memorize a poem by Robert Frost, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. She instructed us to really think about the meaning of the poem and inject it with emotion and insight. High school freshman, right? As usual, I was the new kid in town and dripping with insecurity, but I thought about her suggestion and tore into it. This poem only has 4 short verses, and the language is not obscure, but direct and simple. When I was 5 years old, I memorized a poem, Little Orphan Annie, and would stand up and recite that poem at the drop of a hat. It goes, "Little Orphan Annie comes to our house to stay and wash the cups and saucers and brush the crumbs away." It's 5 very long verses, so memorization was not going to be a problem. I worked on the Robert Frost poem, and the day arrived that everyone had to get up and recite it from memory. There were some wide-eyed boys and some girls with trembling hands awaiting their turn. When it was my turn, I got up and gave it my best shot, with as much expression as I could muster. To my utter shock, Mrs. McAdams said, "That's the way it should be done." I was horrified. I was deeply concerned that this would earn me the enmity of my new classmates, but nobody cared. A chord was struck. Perhaps I possessed an ability I didn't know I had and an avenue to approval. Decades later, someone gave me a guitar, and although I loved making music, it was the words to the songs that resonated with how I felt about my life, my sorrows, my passions, my insecurities, and alienation. Joan Baez had just come out with her first album, and I loved the words to the old ballads, the stories of shipwrecks and abandoned women and lost love. It was the 60s. Little did I realize that singing these songs was going to be my personal psychotherapy. I worked in a department store and walked to my apartment a block away on my lunch hour to play the guitar and sing. As Joni Mitchell wrote, "Sing my sorrows to the sound hole of the guitar and my knees." Music and meaningful lyrics, poems in themselves, became instruments of healing and spirituality and a way to connect with my deeper self. Much later, the songwriters that I admire the most were those who created powerful, deep, interesting, soulful lyrics. James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Gordon Lightfoot, Richard Farina, Paul Simon. There's a much longer list. These were my mentors who urged me to reach deep down for self-knowledge and compassion for others. There is, for me, something about poetry when combined with music that is almost more powerful than music alone or poetry alone, almost. I love to find songs that people haven't heard because I enjoy sharing a new sparkling thing. I don't usually want to cover a song that everybody and their uncle has performed, but I have learned to my peril that to do an entire concert of new or unusual songs does not please the average audience. People find familiar songs comforting and even happier if they can sing along. Every cell of the body hums and vibrates when a person sings. Raising one's voice with a group of people is an unparalleled experience. For me, there's nothing like Christmas Eve when we light each other's candle, dim the lights, and sing Silent Night, Holy Night. It nearly brings me to tears every single year. And so, poetry has all my life been a gateway to beauty, meaning, and spirituality.
One of the things I treasure about being a Unitarian Universalist is the opportunity that this religious practice has given me to explore spirituality on levels that I never knew existed. For example, as Diane talked about, music and singing are part of every service at UU churches. They're an important part of what it is to be spiritual. Being in a forest or by the ocean brings up deep feeling of connectedness with the world or a sense of the spiritual for some people, including me, and I never really thought about it until UU's brought it to the surface. I've realized that for me, my connection to spirituality presents itself often through poetry. I love spiritual and earth-centered poems. I find myself particularly drawn to the ecstatic poetry of Sufi mystics, which, for those who know that I'm a UU Jewish atheist, is no small irony. And as I've been preparing for this service, I've asked myself, what is it that I'm drawn to in these Sufi mystics? And the answer I've come up with is that I enjoy seeing God through their eyes because it gives them such happiness and bliss, and they in turn share wonderful insights about the human condition. Shams Uddin Muhammad Hafiz lived in Shiraz, Persia in the 14th century. He was a well-known poet and spiritual teacher. He chose the pen name Hafiz. Hafiz in Persian means one who has memorized the Quran. Big book, hard to memorize. The ecstatic poet Rumi had lived a century earlier and was one of the influences on Hafiz. Poetry is as central to Persian culture as opera is to Italians. And even today, Persia is now Iran, even today in Iran, people still read these poems and argue about who the greatest Persian poet is. What you're going to hear in these poems is, for me, very powerful. It's powerful imagery. It's enormous, deep passion, and no feeling of shame about such passion. And it's deep, deep wisdom. The great Sufi poets wrote about God a lot, a three-letter word that is central to the human experience, whatever feelings and beliefs may be evoked in each of us. The God that Hafiz described is not the all-powerful white-haired man depicted on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, nor is it the angry, punishing God that I learned about in the Old Testament. Daniel Ladinsky, who has translated many of Hafiz's poems into English, wrote, and I'm quoting him now, Hafiz reveals a God with 1 billion IQ, a God that would never cripple us with guilt or control us with fear. People from many religious traditions share the belief that there are always living persons who are one with God. Hafiz came to live in that sacred union. His poems reach inside our chests, tug at our hearts. He's talking about the deepest, richest love he has, and the words that he uses to describe his joy sometimes make me gasp. What an extraordinary experience it must have been for him over and over again to feel so intimate with God that God became his lover. Hafiz even gave God pet names like Sweet Uncle, Problem Giver, Friend, and most frequently, Beloved. Hafiz's God is not distant. He's someone we could meet and be very intimate with. And I find myself pulled in by the delight that Hafiz expresses about his romance with this divine presence, even though I can't experience that myself. The spiritual leader Meher Baba wrote that the poetry of Hafiz contained all of the secrets of the spiritual path, because the true subject matter of spirituality is love. These poems express the wonder of Hafiz, his exuberance, his sweetness, his teasing and playfulness, and his boundless capacity for love. So, without further ado, and in the words of Hafiz, dear ones, let's anoint this earth with dance. There's a game we should play, and it goes like this. We hold hands and look into each other's eyes and scan each other's face. Then I say, now you tell me a difference you see between us. And you might respond, Hafiz, your nose is 10 times bigger than mine. Then I would say, yes, dear, almost 10 times. But let's keep playing. Let's go deeper. Go deeper. For if we do, our spirits will embrace and interweave. Our union will be so glorious that even God will not be able to tell us apart. There's a wonderful game we should play with everyone, and it goes like this.
Keeping watch. In the morning, when I begin to wake, it happened again. That feeling that you, beloved, had stood over me all night keeping watch. That feeling that as soon as I began to stir, you put your lips on my forehead and lit the holy lamp inside my heart.
Come to my house late at night. Do not be shy. Hafiz will be barefoot and dancing. I will be in such a grand and generous mood. Come to my door at any hour. Even if your eyes are frightened by my light, my heart and arms are open and need no rest. They will always welcome you. Come in, my dear. From the harsh world that has rained elements of stone upon your tender face, every soul should receive a toast from us for bravery. Bring all the bottles of wine you own to this divine table, the earth we share. If your cellar is empty, this whole universe could drink forever from mine. Let's dine tonight with exquisite music. I might even hire angels to play, just for you. Look, hidden beneath your feet is a luminous stage where we are meant to rehearse our elemental dance. And what price is the price of my divine instruction? What could I ask of you? All I could ever want is that you have the priceless company of someone who can kiss God, that you have the priceless gift of becoming a servant to the friend. Come to my window, dear world. Why ever be shy? Look inside my playful verse, for Hafiz is barefoot and dancing, and in such a grand and generous mood, in such a fantastic mood.
Upon the tender night, yearning for its dear old friend, the moon, when the nameless one debuts again, 10,000 facets of my being unfurl wings and reveal such a radiance inside, I enter a realm divine. I too begin to so sweetly cast night like a lamp through the streets of the world. My heart is an unset jewel upon existence, waiting for the friend's touch. Tonight, my heart is an unset ruby, offered, bowed, and weeping to the sky. I am dying in these cold hours for the resplendent glance of God. I am dying because of divine remembrance of who I really am. Hafiz, tonight your soul is a brilliant reed instrument in need of the breath of the Christ.
And for no reason, I start skipping like a child. And for no reason, I turn into a leaf that is carried so high, I kiss the sun's mouth and dissolve. And for no reason, 1,000 birds choose my head for a conference table, start passing their cups of wine and their wild song books all around. And for every reason in existence, I begin to eternally laugh and love. When I turn into a leaf and start dancing, I run to kiss our beautiful friend, and I dissolve into the truth that I am.
Now that all your worry has proven such an unlucrative business, why not find a better job?
Death is a favor to us, but our scales have lost their balance. The impermanence of the body should give us great clarity, deepening the wonder in our senses and eyes of this mysterious existence we share and are surely just traveling through. If I were in the tavern tonight, Hafiz would call for drinks, and as the master poured, I would be reminded that all I know of life and myself is that we are just a mid-air flight of golden wine between his pitcher and his cup. If I were in the tavern tonight, I would buy freely for everyone in the world, because our marriage with the cruel beauty of time and space cannot endure very long. Death is a favor to us, but our minds have lost their balance. The miraculous existence of form always makes the illumined ones laugh and sing.
What is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made a fantastic move, that the saint is now continually tripping over joy and bursting out in laughter and saying, "I surrender." Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves.
A young woman once asked me, "How does it feel to be a man?" And I replied, "My dear, I am not sure." Then she said, "Well, aren't you a man?" And this time I replied, "I view gender as a beautiful animal that people often take for a walk on a leash to try to win strange prizes." My dear, a better question for Hafiz would have been, how does it feel to be a heart? For all I know is love, and I find my heart infinite and everywhere.
A day of silence can be a pilgrimage into itself. A day of silence can help you listen to the soul play its marvelous lute and drum. Is not most talking a crazed defense of a crumbling fort? I thought we came here to surrender to silence, to yield to light and happiness, to dance within the celebration of love's victory.
And one final poem. Plant so that your own heart will grow. Love so God will think, ah, I got kin in that body. I should start inviting that soul over for coffee and rolls. Sing, because this is a food our starving world needs. Laugh, because that is the purest sound.